Hello and welcome to Understanding Depression. I'm really glad you're here with me today, because the topic we're diving into is one that often stays hidden behind forced smiles and silent struggles. It's called postpartum depression, and it deserves to be talked about, honestly and openly. We live in a world that celebrates new life. The moment a baby is born, congratulations flood in, photos are shared, gifts are given. Everyone is excited, and of course, having a child is a life-changing, beautiful experience. But what happens when the joy that's expected doesn't come? What if, after the baby arrives, a deep, dark sadness takes over instead? For many people, this is a reality. The truth is, not every new parent feels instantly overjoyed. In fact, some feel overwhelmed, anxious, or disconnected. And that's not because they're bad parents or ungrateful. It's because they're going through something very real: postpartum depression, a serious and common mental health condition that affects about 1 in 7 women after giving birth. In today's episode, we'll talk about what postpartum depression really is, how it differs from the typical baby blues, what causes it, and how it can affect both the parent and the child. We'll also break down some common myths, share stories, and talk about what healing can look like. And as always, if this topic hits close to home for you, or someone you love, I want you to know, this space is here for understanding, not judgment. You're not alone. And there is help. So stay with me, stay mindful, and let's begin. Let's start by understanding what postpartum depression, or PPD, really is. Postpartum depression is a mood disorder that can affect individuals after childbirth. It usually begins within the first few weeks after delivery, but it can start any time within the first year. It's more intense and lasts longer than the baby blues, and it often requires professional support. The symptoms? They can vary. Some people feel an overwhelming sadness. Others experience extreme fatigue, irritability, or anxiety. Some might cry constantly without knowing why. Many feel guilt for not feeling happy, for not bonding with their baby, or for needing help. There can also be physical symptoms: difficulty sleeping even when the baby sleeps, changes in appetite, aches, pains, or even panic attacks. And in severe cases, postpartum depression can include thoughts of harming oneself or the baby. These are signs that should never be ignored. But here's something important. Postpartum depression is not a weakness. It's not a character flaw. It's not a failure in motherhood or fatherhood. It's a medical condition, and like any medical condition, it deserves care, compassion, and proper treatment. Now you might be wondering, how is postpartum depression different from the baby blues? That's a good question, and it's important to make the distinction. The baby blues are very common. Up to 80% of new mothers experience them. They typically show up a few days after birth and last for about 1 to 2 weeks. Symptoms can include mood swings, crying spells, anxiety, and difficulty sleeping, but they usually go away on their own, without the need for treatment. Postpartum depression, on the other hand, is more intense and persistent. It doesn't just pass with time. It can interfere with a person's ability to care for their baby, or even for themselves. That's why recognizing the difference is so crucial. If you or someone you know seems to be struggling for more than 2 weeks after childbirth, it's time to reach out. You don't have to wait it out. Support is available, and it can make all the difference. Let's talk about why postpartum depression happens. There's no single cause, but instead, a combination of physical, emotional, and environmental factors. And understanding these can help us approach postpartum depression with more empathy and less stigma. First, let's look at the physical side. After childbirth, a person's hormone levels drop sharply, especially estrogen and progesterone. This dramatic hormonal shift can affect brain chemistry, triggering mood swings and emotional instability. On top of that, there's often a lack of sleep, physical recovery from labor or surgery, and changes in appetite or energy. All of this takes a toll on the body and mind. Then there's the emotional shift. Becoming a parent is a massive life change. The responsibility is enormous. There can be fear of not being good enough, of making mistakes, or of the baby's safety. And even joy itself can feel overwhelming when mixed with anxiety and exhaustion. Some new parents also grieve the loss of their old life, the freedom they once had, their former identity, or the simplicity of days before diapers and feedings. These feelings are valid, but they're often kept silent due to shame or fear of judgment. Finally, we have environmental and social factors. A lack of support from a partner, family, or community can significantly increase the risk of postpartum depression. So can financial stress, a traumatic birth experience, previous mental health issues, or complications with the baby's health. Isolation and cultural expectations also play a role. In many societies, there's an unspoken pressure to bounce back after birth, to be happy and grateful all the time. That pressure can be suffocating. And here's something we need to say clearly. Postpartum depression can affect anyone. It doesn't discriminate. It can affect new mothers, adoptive parents, and even fathers and non-birthing partners. Yes, fathers can experience postpartum depression too, especially when they feel overwhelmed, unsupported, or disconnected from their new role. So if you've ever thought this isn't supposed to happen to me, please know it can happen to anyone, and it's not your fault. Let's talk about what postpartum depression feels like, beyond the symptoms listed in a textbook. Imagine giving everything you have to care for a tiny human, while inside, you feel completely drained, invisible, or numb. You love your baby, but you don't feel connected. You might smile for the photos, but cry when no one's looking. Or maybe, you don't cry at all, just a heavy emptiness that won't go away. You might start to doubt yourself constantly. Am I doing this right? Why can't I just be happy? Does this mean I'm a bad parent? And sometimes, the thoughts are darker. I'm not good enough. My family would be better off without me. I don't even recognize myself anymore. These are the kinds of thoughts that make postpartum depression so painful and so dangerous. But they also highlight why early recognition and support are critical. Let's pause here for a moment to emphasize something really important. If you're listening to this and some of these feelings sound familiar, please know you're not broken. You're not weak. And you're not alone. You are experiencing something many others have gone through and survived. You are still a good parent. You are still worthy of love, of help, of healing. Now let's shift the focus to how we can start to support people going through this. Because healing is possible, but it rarely happens in isolation. It happens in connection, with the right care, the right people, and the right understanding. So in the next part, we'll talk about treatment options and how to help someone you love who might be experiencing postpartum depression. So, how is postpartum depression treated? The good news is, it is treatable. With the right combination of support and care, most people recover fully. Let's go over some of the most common and effective treatment options. First, therapy. Talking to a mental health professional, especially someone trained in perinatal mental health, can be incredibly helpful. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is one of the most common approaches. It helps people challenge harmful thought patterns and develop healthier ways of coping. Then, there's medication. In some cases, antidepressants may be recommended. Many are considered safe to use while breastfeeding, but of course, this should always be discussed with a doctor. Medication doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're doing what's needed to support your brain chemistry and your well-being. Support groups can also be life-changing. There's something powerful about hearing, "Me too." It breaks the isolation. Whether it's online or in person, sharing your story or simply listening to others can help you feel seen, understood, and less alone. Sometimes, lifestyle changes can help, though they can be difficult when you're exhausted. Prioritizing sleep, eating regular meals, asking for help, and setting small, achievable goals can all support recovery. But the key is, this isn't something you have to do alone. Partners, family, and friends play a huge role in recovery too. If someone you love is showing signs of postpartum depression, here's what you can do. Listen without judgment. Don't rush to fix or give advice. Sometimes, just saying, "I'm here for you," makes all the difference. Validate their feelings. Don't say things like, "just be happy," or "other moms have it worse." Instead, say, "that sounds really hard. I believe you." Offer practical help. Do the dishes. Watch the baby while they nap. Bring them a meal. Support can be simple and powerful. And gently encourage them to seek professional help. Offer to go with them if they feel scared. Let them know it's okay to need support. You don't have to be a therapist to be a lifeline. Now let's address some myths that often surround postpartum depression, because misinformation can be just as harmful as silence. Myth 1: if you have postpartum depression, you don't love your baby. This is completely false. People with PPD often love their child deeply, but their emotional state makes it difficult to feel joy or connection. Depression clouds perception. It doesn't erase love. Myth 2: only weak or ungrateful people get postpartum depression. No. Mental illness has nothing to do with strength or gratitude. PPD is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that your brain and body are responding to intense stress and change. Even the most resilient people can be affected. Myth 3: it'll go away on its own if you just wait. Sometimes symptoms do lessen over time, but for many, they can persist or worsen without support. Postpartum depression is a condition that deserves active treatment, not silent endurance. Myth 4: it only affects biological mothers. Actually, no. Partners, adoptive parents, and even fathers can experience depression after the arrival of a child. Anyone taking on the emotional and physical responsibilities of a new baby can be vulnerable to this shift. Myth 5: talking about it means you're a bad parent. The truth is, talking about it takes courage. Speaking up doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you a strong, self-aware, and responsible one. Silence helps no one. Sharing saves lives. If we can challenge these myths, we open the door to more compassion and more healing. Because here's the reality: postpartum depression isn't rare. It's just rarely talked about. And when we don't talk about it, people suffer in silence, thinking they're alone, broken, or failing. But when we create space for open conversation, we give people permission to be honest about what they're going through. We remind them that pain doesn't make them less worthy, less lovable, or less human. Let's now shift the focus to recovery, because yes, recovery is real. It doesn't always happen overnight. Sometimes it takes weeks, months, or even longer. But with the right support, healing is possible, and so is rediscovering joy. Recovery often begins the moment someone is able to say out loud, "I'm not okay." That moment takes bravery. It cracks open a door to healing, and from there, small steps can build into meaningful change. For some, recovery looks like going to therapy weekly. For others, it's finally being able to sleep a full night or finding joy in a walk outside. It might be reconnecting with your partner, laughing again, or feeling the first moment of true bonding with your baby after weeks of numbness. There's no single way to heal, and no timeline is too slow. You may still have hard days. You may need to ask for help more than once. But every small act of care, every phone call, every moment of rest, every choice to be gentle with yourself, is part of the process. Here's something else worth remembering. You are not defined by this chapter. Postpartum depression is something you're going through, not something that defines who you are. You restes some personne indemniade. And that person deserves light, love, and support. And if you're someone supporting a loved one through PPD, don't underestimate the power of your presence. You don't need all the right word. Just being there, consistently and compassionately, matters more than you know. Let's talk about prevention and preparedness, because while we can't always prevent postpartum depression, there are steps we can take to reduce risk and build a stronger support system. If you're expecting a baby or planning to become a parent, it's helpful to be proactive. Start conversations early. Talk openly with your healthcare provider about your mental health history, even during pregnancy. If you've experienced depression or anxiety before, you may be at a higher risk for PPD. And that's not a reason to worry. It's a reason to plan ahead. Build your support team. Think beyond just who will help with diapers, who will check in on you. Who can you text when you're overwhelmed or just need to cry? Line up that emotional safety net before the baby arrives. Create a postpartum plan. We prepare for birth with classes, books, and packing a hospital bag. But what about preparing for after the birth? A postpartum plan can include who handles meals, who helps at night, what your rest schedule might look like, and how you'll communicate if you start to feel off. Planning doesn't guarantee smooth sailing, but it creates anchors for the rough days. Set realistic expectations. Social media will tell you newborn life is all cuddles and soft lighting. Real life? It's messy. It's beautiful and chaotic and exhausting. You're not doing it wrong if you don't feel blissful all the time. Learn the signs so you can act early. Sometimes postpartum depression creeps in quietly. It might look like just being tired or just adjusting. But if those feelings linger, grow heavier, or start affecting daily life, that's your cue to reach out. The earlier you get support, the better. And remember, asking for help doesn't make you less prepared. It makes you stronger, more self-aware, more equipped to face the challenges that come. You don't have to do this alone, and you were never meant to. As we begin to wrap up, let's take a moment to talk about hope and why it matters. When you're in the thick of postpartum depression, hope can feel far away. You might think, I'll never feel like myself again, or this darkness is permanent. But the truth is, healing is not just possible, it's happening every day. All around the world, people are recovering. They're finding their way back to themselves, slowly, gently, courageously. And that includes you. There's no shame in needing support. There's no weakness in struggling. There's only humanity and the need to be held, emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes literally, until we can stand again. If you're someone who has experienced postpartum depression and come out the other side, your story can be powerful. When you share it, you help normalize the struggle and remind others that they're not alone. If you're in the middle of it right now, please don't wait in silence. Reach out. Talk to someone you trust. Speak to your doctor. Join a group. Send that message. One small action can begin the passback. And if you're supporting someone going through it, keep showing up. Listen. Offer kindness. Remind them they're still here, still loved, still whole. Let's keep working together to break the stigma around maternal mental health, because when we do, we save lives. So, as we come to the end of this episode, let's take a breath together. Whether you've been listening as a parent, a partner, a friend, a mental health advocate, or simply someone who wants to understand more, thank you. You've taken the time to be present with a topic that's often hidden in the shadows. And that matters, because postpartum depression doesn't always look how we expect. It doesn't always come with tears. Sometimes it's silence, numbness, detachment, and the people experiencing it might smile in front of others, even as they quietly fall apart. But your awareness, your empathy, your willingness to listen, that's part of the solution. If this episode has spoken to you, or reminded you of someone you know, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it, talk about it, send it to a friend, because maybe, just maybe, someone needs to hear exactly what you just heard. And if you are that person, please let this episode be your reminder. You are not broken, you are not failing, you are loved, and you are not alone. We all deserve to experience the beauty of new life without drowning in silent suffering. We all deserve the chance to heal, and we all play a part in making that healing possible. Let's keep showing up for each other. Let's keep breaking the silence. Let's keep reminding every parent that it's okay to ask for help, and that healing is not only possible, it's worth fighting for. Thanks for listening to Understanding Depression. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode if it meant something to you. And join us next time as we continue to explore the many faces of depression with honesty, care, and hope. We're in this together.